So for step 16, checking the RC equipment. Well, this step's a little different to checking the RC equipment we've done in our other kits because we're going to use our battery box that we were building in the previous 3 steps. Then we're going to need to attach this to an ESC. Now the Dancing Rider, and this one in particular, does not come with an ESC. So I had this one, a TBLE04S Tamiya speed controller kicking around, so I'm going to use that. But you may end up using a Hobbywing 1060. Either's fine. Just the way that we're going to do this might be a little different in terms of how you connect everything, but you should be good. Then, of course, we're going to be working on the servo itself and attaching all of the servo saver pieces. But of course, we need to find out if the servo is in neutral before we attach everything. So that's the main reason we need to do an RC equipment check, is to make sure the servo's in neutral. Now, in my case, the servo came with a little tapping screw, and when you move across this, it literally came out as an MB4, and strangely enough, Tamiya is showing as the recommended tapping screw for this anyway. But you can see here that Tamiya and Futaba, if we look at this Q1 piece that I grabbed off of the parts tree, that's the piece that we're going to be needing, and Futaba and Tamiya are identical more or less. But there is another one in there, a KO or a Sanwa. So depending on your radio, you're going to need to pick out the correct piece in order to attach everything. But anyways, I've got all of the pieces here, all of the hardware, so I'll set this all up and we'll figure this all out. Okay, so here we go. I've connected everything. So here is our battery case connected to our ESC. The ESC is connected to our receiver, and the receiver is connected to our servo. Now, what you're going to see is if I flip the switch on the ESC, is that you're going to see the servo do a little shimmy. And when it's finished doing that, it'll be in neutral. So in case the servo wasn't in neutral to begin with, this will ensure that it's exactly where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to flip this switch. Let's see what happens. There we go. So you saw that it moved actually a fair bit. I'm going to flick it again. You should see a small shimmy. So we now know that this servo is in neutral, and we can continue to put on the servo saver and we'll know that it's in the correct place. So now that everything has been connected, I'm going to turn everything off and we'll get to work on the servo saver. So as you can see, we're going to need to put on this piece, which we built in an earlier step, and then on the top of that is this Q4 piece, which is literally just going to sit on top like that. Now, this part is a high torque servo saver that you're going to need to put together, and of course we had these metal rings. Well, I've gone ahead and already built it. I decided not to do it on camera because if you want to see how to build a high torque servo saver, you can click this link right here and it'll take you to a video where I actually show you how to put this together. It requires a little bit of effort to do, so I just decided not to repeat myself. So what we're going to do here is you can see that the piece here needs to face towards the back. And you can kind of see that if I move this up a bit, you can see that here. So this needs to sit basically like that. Now, obviously this isn't going to be perfect because you've got the tines on the servo that have to match up with the underside of this. So you can either sit it like that, or if we just turn it a bit, sit it like that. Notice it's a little better. Or like that. Well, that's a little worse. So I'm going to choose to put it into that position because that's the closest. So if I was to do that, I'm just going to push this on with my thumb. That's as far as it can go. So that is on, But because it's not perfect, that's okay, because we can make the fine-tune adjustments with the radio at a later date. So knowing that, we also know that this is going to need to sit on top of there, and it's going to fit. You can see this part here will fit down in here, just like that. So it's a perfect match. And then of course there's that piece which just popped out again, which I'm not too worried about. So that's just going to sit right like that. And then we have our MB4 screw that's going to screw in. And I'm going to grab our screwdriver here. And I'm going to use my thumb to kind of hold it so that the servo saver doesn't move during this process. So I'm using my thumb just to stop it from turning, because I want to make sure that this goes on okay. And you're not going to want to over tighten this, because with it being the servo, small screw, but I can feel that this wants to turn back now, which is why my thumb is holding it, so that we can keep it basically in the position of neutral. There. So there we go. There is our servo with our servo saver attached. So ultimately, that is what it should look like when you finish this step. So that is the end of step 16. So now we're going to move on to step 17, and we're going to attach the servo to the chassis.